We shift our focus to this story now. South Africa and Nigeria have agreed to strengthen cooperation on migration, crime and regional security following high-level talks in Abuja. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola, acting as President Cyril Ramaphosa's special envoy, delivered a message to Nigerian President Bola Tinubu as the two countries sought to improve bilateral ties. The discussions focused on organized crime and attacks on law enforcement officers during crime-fighting operations, among other concerns. For more on this, we're joined in studio by spokesperson for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Chrispin Phiri. A very good morning to you, Chrispin. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So the minister has concluded that diplomatic mission to Abuja, where he delivered that official message from President Ramaphosa. Just talk to us about that message. What was he to state on behalf of the president?
Yes, the minister met with a very high-level delegation designated by President Tinubu to meet with us. And it was quite fortunate that we met at that level because we were able to really have a robust discussion with our Nigerian counterparts. And part of the engagement focused on how we see the origins of the current protest that has taken place in South Africa around immigrants. And we highlighted the fact that the incident in Kukompo really did set out to really light a match around issues that have been long lingering amongst the citizens of South Africa, particularly when it pertains to the conduct of some, not all, Nigerian nationals. And this was an important discussion to have at that level. And the Nigerian counterparts understood this. You would recall that, in fact, the acting High Commissioner at the time, at the Kukompo incident, did really move fast to apologize and to de-escalate the matter. But one of the things that was quite clear is that this has been a sentiment that has been within the South African populace for some time. And at a bilateral level, it was high time that we had a very candid discussion about it. The Nigerian counterparts were very clear that they don't condone any acts of criminality by their own nationals and expect that our system would be able to process these individuals through the rule of law, as we have done. We were able to say, as of July 7, when we last checked, there were over 500 Nigerian nationals in the criminal justice system for all manner of infractions. And so this is a matter that we continue to process. But one of the things they highlighted was the fact that it's important that we are not seen as having a system that allows individuals to take the law into their own hands. And we agree. That is something of concern. Whilst we welcome the right of individuals to protest on any matter, immigration, rule of law enforcement remains the state authority to enforce.
Because when perusing through your statement, pardon me for interjecting there, it did seem as though there was some level of commitment on both sides to de-escalate that inflammatory rhetoric, if you will, in the public discourse. But when we speak of inflammatory rhetoric, what exactly is it for citizens to properly understand? Because ordinary citizens can say, if we say we live in communities where we know of perhaps a Nigerian individual who is trafficking drugs in this area, would that now be considered inflammatory rhetoric in public discourse? Or really that is them putting forward allegations about a lived reality?
That's precisely what we put forward to say. I think South Africans are not Afrophobic either. They are talking about their lived experiences with people they live with in communities. If you look at the migration patterns in South Africa, immigrants are integrated into our communities, and particularly townships and where black people are. So because of our history of spatial planning as well, naturally we live together, we compete for the same resources, we compete for the same jobs as well. And one of the issues that we also highlighted to that point is that we are dealing with still a labor market that still does exhibit exploitative practices where undocumented individuals are absorbed into the labor market at the expense of South African nationals. This is a concern. That's why President Ramaphosa, in his SONA speech, had said we need 10,000 labor law inspectors to address this very issue where there are undocumented migrants in the system being exploited. We need to ensure, as a country of the rule of law, that we address that. So we had that discussion, and it's an ongoing discussion about how we classify this problem. We were very clear that South Africans have a particular lived experience, and that's what informs some of these sentiments. But it's not to say that all South Africans are xenophobic, like we can say not all Nigerians are criminals, for example. So it also goes both ways. Not all South Africans are xenophobic at all.
So essentially there's no desire to profile the law-abiding Nigerians in the Nigerian diaspora as something other than what they are, which is law-abiding. But if we look at the other concerns, I know that you speak now of the installation of the Igbo King. There was also the area of concern around involvement of some Nigerians in drug trafficking, but also concerns around the involvement of some Nigerian foreign nationals in the hijacking of buildings in the CBD.
Yes, and that's a matter that we put up front. So we highlighted the fact that in areas like Hillbrow and Sunnyside, there were at some stage reports of them being designated no-go areas to South African nationals and an exclusive jurisdiction of Nigerian nationals, and that's something of concern. Again, the Nigerian counterparts acknowledge that that is completely unacceptable, and when we have every right to enforce our laws on that matter, and we should do so, provided we just treat individuals of any country in a humane manner. And of course, we accept that we have a country of rule of laws. Another very contentious issue on the table along the realm of inflammatory rhetoric was this notion that there are extrajudicial killings in South Africa by the South African police services. And we have said, where the South African police services have gone beyond their mandate, we have IPID, which is an independent body. It investigates these type of issues, and it will be ventilated properly through the rule of law. But what is clear is that these are not state-sanctioned killings or state-sanctioned actions. This is law enforcement in practice, and sometimes, unfortunately, there are incidents that would require further investigation, and that is the case. And we will continue to provide feedback on the outcome of those investigations. But to label these as extrajudicial killings or deliberate state action doesn't help us. And we are a country that's proud of our rule of law system. Right now, we are watching a very, very important process of the rule of law unfolding in South Africa. So, in essence, we are transparent and we are committed to accountability. Where there's wrongdoing, there are processes to hold people accountable.
And then, did you get a sense beyond, or at the conclusion of that meeting or engagement, did you get a sense that there is a clear understanding that even with the protests from June 30th, that these were specifically for undocumented foreign nationals, that at the heart of it was a situation where the ordinary citizens were saying, we need data in municipalities, and the data is important for resource allocation, that if they're going to clinics and there are people who are undocumented, the funds that are allocated for a specific clinic are then being depleted far too prematurely because they don't know or cannot account for a lot of people.
There is a sense that our governance systems need to improve. We do need to know exactly who's accessing our services, at what scale, and what type of resources we require to provide proper service delivery. And that's something that we stated. So in an economy that's not growing as well, the state's resources are continuously limited. But what was clear, Mfundo, from this discussion was that we need to work together to have a deeper understanding of the mutual concerns of both countries. What will not help is finger pointing and, point scoring about some of these issues. So we highlighted the fact that we do look forward as well to a discussion that is comprehensive at the level of the African Union, not one that finger points, because there are a number of other parts of the African region where Africans do migrate to as well, where they experience difficulties there. So we do view the idea of trying to just confine this discussion to South Africa as quite unhelpful. It will not address the migration problem that Africa has. 80% of Africa's migrants are on the move within the continent. So it does tell you that there are many push factors that push people away from their countries of origin to other countries. And let's get to the heart of that.
Requiring a broader conversation. You also engaged Ghana post those anti-undocumented foreign nationals protests that we saw in the country. Now, with Ghana, we know that they've been deeply aggrieved to the extent that there was one briefing where the presidency spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, went on to state that they were actually quite concerned by the conduct of Ghana, to the point where they went on to seek to perpetuate a narrative that South Africa was now, post those protests, being isolated on the continent and even abroad. So when engaging Ghana, how was the reception around exactly the purpose or the basis of the protests that they've been seeing in the country?
One of the things that Ghana highlighted quite strongly was the impression that some of these protests were state-sanctioned, particularly because you have police shepherding a number of individuals as they protest. And in some instances, there were scuffles that broke out. There were confrontations with citizens in the presence of police. And Ghana did say, well, how does this work? And we said, in our system, you have to ensure that the protest is peaceful, and police are there to maintain peace. where there's criminality or any process that unfolds which is unlawful, police have gone on to then act in a manner that we expect of them. So, for example, you would have seen 69 arrests in the Western Cape, Jeffreys Bay, of people looting, a number of violations, of criminal violations taking place there, and that's now currently in the system. So we were able to say, look, this is not state-sanctioned, but also where people have gone beyond the scope of a lawful protest, there has been action, and there will continue to be action, because that's what we expect. People are not allowed to take the law into their own hands, but also they're not allowed to commit criminality, whilst raising a very valid issue that they believe the government should address.
And what was the response to that?
So that was understood. We've also, with Ghana, stressed the importance of having a comprehensive discussion around this matter.
Yeah.
And we also hope to see a de-escalation with Ghana around this issue. And Nigeria also, we're very clear that what would be helpful is a de-escalated environment in engaging around these matters.
And then on the minister's diary, which other countries are due to be engaged?
There are a number of other countries, but as we speak now, Minister probably will be arriving in Addis Ababa soon for the Executive Council of the African Union, and there will also be a number of engagements taking place there at a bilateral level with a number of other countries as well around the matter.
All right, Chrispin, thank you very much for your time on the program. That's DIRCO spokesperson Chrispin Phiri speaking to us, and this is, of course, post that bilateral engagement with Nigeria.